And now I'm excited to welcome to the show once again candidate for Congress in Arizona's 6th District, Anita Malik. Welcome back to the Damage Report.
Glad to be here under these different circumstances.
Very different. Yeah, we were
Very
talking about
different.
that before we went live. It's been a little bit since we spoke. How is the campaign adapting to a very different world?
Yeah, like most campaigns, like all campaigns right now, we've had to shift and we're adapting quite well, I think. In Arizona, we were one of the first to actually close our campaign office and make that pivot straight to digital. We closed on March 11th before even anything happened with our city or our state officials, and that was very important to me to really make sure that our volunteers, our community, everybody was staying safe. So we pivoted to digital quite quickly. I think that's one of our strong suits. Been doing a lot of town halls, keeping people informed, and also looking at how we can serve the community. And the good thing that we had in place was we spent all of 2019 on the ground building the infrastructure and expanding it from 2018. So it hasn't been as challenging for us as I think as other campaigns, but it's been hard to really feel where we should put our focus, because to me, this is a time of service, not really a time of here's my platform, so that's been hard to balance the two.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, at all times, politics is serious, but right now
Yes.
there's just this one thing that obviously everyone is thinking about. And
Right.
you were talking about service, so you have an effort that you've put together with another resident of the area, correct?
That's right. So, a friend of mine, completely outside of the campaign, a high school friend, and I decided, after being frustrated, like so many Americans, with the delays in stimulus packages, the delays that we're seeing in unemployment here in Arizona, it's been, striking failure, I would say, in terms of getting people their unemployment, and particularly our gig workers and our contractors. So, we felt like if the government to speed up, we know that our community is strong and there's people here that want to help and there's people that need help. What can we do to connect them? So we created what is really a mutual aid society type of thing where, very few questions asked. If you can help a neighbor and a neighbor needs help, we're going to help to match those people together. So it's called neighborsworkingtogether.com. We have had requests from out of the state as well, but we've been able to help some of those people. But really, it's primarily been focused on Arizona at this point in terms of the help we've been able to give. And it's so encouraging, but it's also so sad that we've had to go to this point,
Yeah.
and so sad that it's exploded. It's about a week old now. It's already been covered in the local press. It's already, having so much traction that I've had to put a team in place just to handle that, because I can't run a campaign and do both. And that's, again, good that we have the resources and volunteers and the heart in our community, but we shouldn't need to be here. It's hard.
So what are some of the main things that crop up very often as things that people need help with?
It's majority of what we're seeing is lost job or reduced pay. So furlough or some type of reduced pay. That is the biggest thing we're seeing. And it is primarily on the higher end with service industry. So restaurants, gig workers, contractors, people that are still waiting on their unemployment, people that fell through the cracks of stimulus checks, and maybe don't even know the right things to do. So we're trying to now, after a week of doing this and seeing these stories, trying to actually also say, did you go here? Did you know you can file this? Did you know you can go onto the website of the IRS and put in requests for your stimulus or your bank information? So hopefully we can help in that way as well. But we know, like the money that's coming from the federal government's not enough. I mean, we're into the second, third month here. I've lost count. I think we all have, and it's not enough. So people are going to need more. But we want to make sure they're at least getting that initial aid and relief.
Yeah, I mean, so assuming that you've been able to get the stimulus check, which I know many people who have not. That legislation is now more than a month old, and it was believed, okay, people are suffering. They need $1,200 to get them through. So now we're 4 weeks further in. I hope that people budgeted well with that $1,200, because I'm still barely hearing the beginnings of a conversation about the next set of stimulus. There's been a lot of pushback against making the monthly payments, the one-time payment, a sort of recurring thing. So I'm interested. You have a Republican incumbent you're running against, David Schweikert. You've run against before. What would you say about what he's been contributing to this effort? Overall, the response that you're seeing, obviously led by Donald Trump, how would you evaluate the amount of aid that's been provided so far?
So on the individual standpoint of that, I've been a big proponent from the beginning of this, long before we even saw the stimulus package with the stimulus checks passed, for emergency UBI. I mean, that to me is what makes sense, because I think our government has tended so, and we're in this position because of that, we tend to look very short term. And we're not looking at this of, oh, if states start to reopen, that doesn't mean the economy is going to go back like that. People are also going to be afraid to still go out just because their governor says it's okay. So needs to be a long-term plan for people, and the continued delays only show how much we needed those monthly payments. On the small business side, which is really important here in our district, we are very much a business community. I think that the failing there is one of the things that people are most hard hit with here. To see Arizona actually got a lower proportion of what we should have gotten in terms of the small business aid at the first time. We were at that low end. And then we all saw that all that money, already a small amount for us, went to the big businesses, not our true small businesses. Mm-hmm. And David Schweikert, who I'm running against, has, that's been his MO from the beginning, that he's the business guy. And he's not really stepped up in any way to say he's fighting for us and our small businesses. We know he's fed by those same corporate donors. We know he has those same motivations. We've seen it time and time again. And right now, I think that the district is seeing that in a very, very different light.
Yeah, in reference to the aid being delayed, we saw a quote from David Schweikert saying that it was the Democrats' fault because of their desires for Christmas trees. And I'm not even sure. I get the basic idea. I don't really know what that means. Do you have any better read on it? You know him perhaps a little bit better.
My read on it, and I will tell you, you're not alone, because we've been using this actually as an ad now, because I was so shocked by it, and a lot of reactions are simply, what? It's that I don't even understand what your point is. I think for him, in this cycle in particular, he is a Freedom Caucus member. He's an incumbent that has always stayed under the radar, doesn't really get into the politics, and he has become a mini Trump, I would say, in this cycle. And I think it's because he's fighting really, really hard for his seat now. He knows that we have a very strong chance of flipping this. So to me, when I read it, I thought, okay, this is just another type of weird Trump language, and it's rubbing off on him, or they've all gathered to say, let's just make this a partisan fight about that the Democrats really are way beyond reality. And I think that's what that is. It's a holiday wish and not reality. Apparently, testing, hospital aid, and more aid for small businesses is a holiday wish to him.
Yeah. So looking forward, I'm curious on your read, because I've been trying to get an idea of, in terms of the general election, but even potentially further out, what sort of long-term effects do we think that this experience we've all now gone through, what will it have on our politics? And I think it's very easy to see the anti-lockdown protests and think, oh, that's the big social movement that's coming out of this. But I know that they don't get the headlines, but organizations like Neighbors Working Together, these are people helping each other. You talked about emergency UBI. I know that people's view of UBI is probably fundamentally pretty different than it was 2 months ago. What do you think are some likely things that will have changed when we finally come out of this experience politically, in terms of what people expect out of their representatives, what they hope politics can deliver for them?
There's a number of policy things that I'm hopeful that will change. And I think the two that I want to see them all change. And they're all things that we've been fighting for this whole time. And the cracks are shown now. Everyone can see those cracks. But I think employer-based coverage for healthcare is something that now is so tangibly fraught that people can see the holes in that. When you have 30 million plus people unemployed suddenly, people see the holes in this. And so I think that moving away from that is going to be a stronger push for us. And I think also what I'd like to see in this time of where I believe campaigns should be doing service, I believe people do not have money to pay their basic bills. John, that I'm a huge big push in running my campaign in a way that campaign finance reform and this idea that money is what it takes to win above all else has led politicians and candidates astray, I think, in getting to where we need to be and leading for people. And so if this changes the shift in what it takes to win an election and really help us push campaign finance reform, and that is something that I'm formulating in my brain right now what that should look like, because I don't understand how people are still asking for money. You know, we've had to finally, after 6 weeks of not asking for money, I have to keep the lights on. I have an office that's closed, but I have to keep the lights on. And, but I don't understand how that can be a priority when there's so much need in this country. And I'd rather it go to someone that is in need. So that's neighbors working together.
Exactly. You know, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because at the end of these interviews, I generally ask the candidate where people can find out more about their platform. But also, if someone is a potential constituent of yours, where can they find out more about the organization?
So the organization is neighborsworkingtogether.com. Just like, it's a long URL, but it's clear. There's also a Facebook group for it, a private Facebook group that we let you in quickly, but that way you can communicate about other needs that you might be able to someone can offer you help in there as well, besides financial assistance. And then, of course, our website is Anita4FORArizona.com.
Nina Malik, as always, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.